Well, it's time for Books on Point. More than 1 million black South African women are domestic workers. These nannies and housekeepers continue to occupy a central place in post-apartheid society, but it is a position that is an ambivalent one. Precariously situated between urban and rural areas, rich and poor, white and black, these women are at once intimately connected and a distant remove from the families they serve. Like family, they may be, but their employees know that they can never be real family. Joining me in studio to talk about her book is Ena Jansen, who is the author of Like Family, Domestic Workers in South African History and Literature. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I must say that I really liked the title, and as I alluded to in my intro, they are like family, but when you dig really deep, they actually are not. Talk to me about the title.
When I started working on, researching the topic, starting to read quite widely, especially in literature, I came across so many employers saying their domestic worker is like a sister, like a mother, like a daughter, like family. And I also came across many similar expressions or statements by workers themselves. But all the time you see it is like, or in Afrikaans you say soos, but that is the crux of the matter. They are not family.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the push, there won't be permanent bonds.
Right. So what inspired the book? Because as I understand it, and we had this conversation, initially it was written in Afrikaans.
Yes, I am Afrikaans, and I decided to at first write it in Afrikaans, and then I had it published or translated into Dutch, because I lived and live still partially in Amsterdam. But to be part of a very important global debate about domestic workers, it really is important that it should be translated, and I translated it myself, and I reworked many parts and brought it up to date. And yes, this book is therefore very important that it is in English.
Yeah. So when it comes to that global debate around domestic workers, what do we get from this book in explaining or helping us understand the relationship between black domestic workers and the white families they've worked for over the generations?
Yes, I have really looked at domestic workers being on a crossroads of the meeting places between white and black people for many, many generations. For hundreds of years, a black woman would have been working as a domestic, the only person of another color who would actually cross the front door, go through the front or back door more usually, of a white family. And I realized that she is not only a nanny, but like Grutua, who worked for Jan van Riebeeck as an interpreter, actually domestic workers, they are the people who are on those crossroads between race and class and also often gender. So that's why they are so important in the South African community, to try and understand how racial tensions, how racial entanglements became so part and such a difficult aspect of South African society.
Post-democratic South Africa, we have a lot of measures that were put in place in order to rather improve the working conditions of domestic workers. Yet the one part that I got out of reading the book is that much has been done, but there's still a lot more that we can still do for our domestic workers. Did you get the same sense as well?
Yes, because I've been speaking a lot, and I've been inviting people from the domestic workers' unions together with me during launches, like Myrtle Witboy. The other day, the women from Eastway were present. And I just am so under the impression how important the work still is. But what is still so much needed is the respect and proper payment, and conditions of working should be brought on a par with other labourers. So, and that has taken a long time before the recognition came for domestic workers.
Now, a book like this is academic in nature, in the sense that there's a lot of history, there's a lot of reference or referrals that you make with regards to other authors who've published certain materials that may give us an idea of how domestic workers were portrayed either in literature or in artwork. Talk to me about the structure in putting the book together and how you made sure that the first chapters dealt with the vision you wanted to portray and get the message across, and what happens in the second half of the book.
Yes. I am a literary person, so that was my first interest, to try and delve in the archive of South African literature. Where and when do domestic workers occur as characters? But yes, because every domestic worker who is a character is also actually based often on a real person. Right. And I wanted to bring an overview and an insight into how history, and since the time of slavery, how white people have expected black hands to do the tedious, to do the boring, to do the difficult work. And that meant that I had to look also at the reasons why black people left urban areas, and it had very much to do with land being taken away, black men working in the mines, and black women followed. So that meant that I have chapters which deal with migration, and so slavery, migration, the laws which are of influence on the women was very important. And then the second half, as you said, and I'm very glad that you enjoyed the literature part also, is that I went to have a look at how authors portray domestic workers in relation to children, how sexuality comes out in many stories. Yeah. I was looking at how domestic workers were actually messengers, the interpreters of what went on in the townships and in the homelands. So I just find they are the most important contact figures, the go-betweens. And then post 1994, I had a look at both black and white authors.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Ena. That's Ena Jansen, who is the author of the book Like Family. So most people are rich for a single day in their lives, and that is the day they retire and receive their retirement savings. This moment is more critical than people realize. All too often, pensioners end up destitute because they make the wrong decision once they retire. So my book recommendation for the week is titled Ultimate Guide to Retirement in South Africa. This book is co-written by semi-retired journalist Bruce Cameron and financial planner Wouter Fourie. It provides a straightforward and comprehensive overview of the vital issues that impact retirement, such as taxation, investments, healthcare, estate planning, and where to live when retired. It also identifies warning signs to look out for in order to avoid financial troubles. That's a wrap from me and the news team at 1. Goodbye.